meals the media devours daily, but gluttony is a sin. No wonder they all seem so dumb and slow. And what's called reporting now is just rumor, spoon-fed from creeps seeking money, power, or fame. I wish I could ignore them all. But what is it that guy keeps saying?
Long week? Relax with a glass, and let's get after it. Lots to figure out. What do you say? Let's get after it. It's going to take us 2 hours to do it. So what do you say? Let's get after it.
Let's get after it. I got something better. How about let's get accurate? This is an amazing blockbuster story, Kilmeade. I want you to try to get your head around it. I know it'll be tough for you because you're working all the time. But this is CNN's source contradicting what they said to CNN. So somebody's lying. Do you think this will be on Michael Stelter's reliable sources?
I say they have a test pattern, then put this on his reliable sources. Lanny Davis is also a crisis expert. That's what he wrote a book on.
Yeah.
So here's his crisis. How do I solve the crisis? Take responsibility for it. I'll take the heat and I can handle it. He also says the reporting got mixed up through the course of the criminal investigation. Nope, that didn't work. I made a mistake. I did not mean to be cute. Never was. Says he didn't lie to CNN. He unintentionally misspoke. Said his instinct, this is what he said about what Cohen knows. His instinct was that his client might have something to say about Mueller, about hacking, but he shouldn't have said anything. That is, you're a lawyer. This has nothing to do with Cohen. It's all about Hillary Clinton and Lanny Davis. Cohen doesn't come up. So the question is he worried that Michael Cohen put his hand on the Bible and swore that he was telling the truth and said he had nothing to do with this, that Trump knew nothing about this Trump Tower situation? And when he came out and says now he knows, then Cohen suddenly looks as though he committed perjury? So then he had to backtrack? Or did he just make it up and Michael Cohen said, you're doing a really bad job. I know I'm not paying you, but you can't make things up. There's more to this story.
Well, okay, Dana, I want to stick to the CNN thing because why not? It's fun. That was on that July 26th story. CNN said Larry Davis didn't make any comment on that. So this is from Glenn Greenwald. I'm actually quoting a Glenn Greenwald article. But no.
Wow.
But he's right. CNN said Lanny Davis refused to comment. So either CNN lied to its audience about Davis, or Davis is lying now.
Or they're protecting. They were trying to protect him at the time. They're trying to protect their source and say it wasn't. That's why people do disagree with using background sources, but in a situation like this, then if you're dealing with people's lives, including the president in terms of their future judicial or legal problems, then people do leak and they do speak on background. The other thing that's happening here is you have both camps trying to advance their story with the media on background, trying to be cute. Then they go on the record on cable news and they get a little bit crosswise. But I believe CNN said they're sticking with the story.
Yes, they are.
Because maybe they have another source that told them that the story is true.
And who could that source be? Is there another lawyer that we're missing out on?
Probably.
Yeah, some other guy. Tammy, if this were on the other side, this would be yet another smoking gun.
Sure.
But the media doesn't see this as anything special.
No, and they're going to want to make it go away. But of course, this is why when the president says fake news, everybody goes nuts. This is exactly what he's talking about. The use of an individual, and this is on the theory of like too good to check, right? That they get what they need from their source to move several days. It was a huge story at the time. It was another nail in the 1,000 nails, as you've noted. And then they get that mileage. And they figured that that's all that they need, and they gin this up in this way, and then it just goes away. It floats away. But the viewers know it. CNN is now losing their programs to things like Ancient Aliens. So obviously, Ancient Aliens doing things that CNN won't do and can't do. So this is what the president complains about. It's what you see the crowds at the rallies, yelling at CNN about. It hurts not just Cohen and this entire process legally, but how media is viewed again. It's another nail in a coffin, but it's not of President Trump's. It's of legacy media and what they're willing to do.
Well, and I'm just severely disappointed in the whole legal world right now. Aren't you saddened?
The legal world?
Yes. How these lawyers are just terrible, Juan.
Giuliani? Yeah, I would agree. But I'm way in disagreement with all of you on this one, because it seems to me like you're in the weeds and you just playing out this tired theme of, the right wing hates the elite mainstream media. This is not a big story in terms of CNN says they're standing by their story. They say they have corroboration for the story. They've had every opportunity to say, hey, we made a mistake. In addition to which, remember, CNN fired reporters when reporters got an earlier story about Trump wrong. So I would think that people on the right would say, CNN's not firing anybody in this case. They're not backing off. And the one who's saying that he did something wrong is Lanny Davis. Lanny Davis is a stand-up guy here and saying, hey, I was...
Stand-up guy, he made stuff up about the president.
And then he lied about it.
He said he was speculating, Brian, and he has acknowledged that he was wrong.
That, right?
What?
You don't buy that he was speculating.
That's what he said.
But I know, but I watched what he said. He goes, I have information.
I'm just saying, if you want to know the important story here, the important story was when Cohen stood up in a court and implicated the president in an illegal payoff of a porn star.
But when everyone
That's the
involved
news here.
is
You read
lying
what they
at some
gave 'em.
point, look, if you see a crowd of people who are lying at some point about a variety of issues, and then you've got a guy who's been threatened with life in prison, pledging that he knows something, no wonder people don't take it seriously.
Wait a
But I
second.
do think that
he
the
was in court. He put his. He could be in jail.
He gave them what isn't it? Don't liberals all the time argue that people will say what and they'll confess to things they've never done before simply because of the pressure by law enforcement?
Can
We
Can I
really
make it
should
just
hear
one
that.
point, though? Several times, and I think Maggie Haberman's reporting the New York Times at least twice, stories broken, legal camp on the president's side have said, not true. Or the president even said, fake news, or the spokesperson said, not true. Then 5 or 6 months later, you turn on, oh, it actually is true. So I think that the media is being played a little bit by both sides on the legal side of things. It's difficult to try these cases in a court of public opinion.
But you know what the thing is? There's one side that definitely wants their story to be true, so they're willing to play more fast and loose. Can we talk about Bruce Orr? Is that not a story? The former DOJ guy who's testifying in a closed-door hearing over his relations with Christopher Steele, the spy who tried to bring Trump down with that dossier. This, in my opinion, is a pretty damn big story. He's pushing the dossier created by Fusion GPS where his wife works, and then he says he feared of being exposed by this when Comey got fired. This is, we make fun of the phrase deep state, but this ain't shallow. This ain't shallow state.
Which is why he's testifying behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Right, which I think both sides want now because they feel as though not enough gets done when they're out in public, although I think Peter Strzok exposing his demeanor, his smugness, goes a long way to understanding what goes on, what was really going on behind the closed doors. This is what Catherine Herridge has told us so far, and she's done a great job standing outside. So Bruce Orr, according to Darrell Issa, his memory is imperfect, but he does say he's never had a case like this in 20 years. He goes on to say where they're caught lying. Simpson said the first time, Glenn Simpson, who owns Fusion GPS, whereas Bruce Orr's wife works, said the first time that I was dealing with Bruce Orr was in Thanksgiving. The problem is there's email exchanges that show they've been communicating since August. Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, and Glenn Simpson all contradict each other. And there's no way that should be allowed if you're trying to do an investigation. And if the FBI or Department of Justice was doing this investigation, they would not be tolerating this. So they got to get all three out there in front of us and try to contradict each other.
And you know what we're seeing here is the weaponizing, as we've discussed, of the federal law enforcement framework against a presidential election and a presidential nominee, a candidate, which is what they wanted, which was an insurance policy to keep something from happening. So when we look at that, and this is it's a lesson for conservatives everywhere. Particular communities in this country talk about law enforcement, framing people, making up evidence, targeting individuals to get them deciding that the ends justifies the means. And a lot of people who don't go through that experience say, oh, that could never really happen. We are now seeing it happen at a federal level. So it's an education for all of us, not just at that level, but at the local level as well when it comes to what law enforcement is willing to do and the cleanup that has to happen around the country for all of us, just when it comes to who we trust and whether or not we're going to really take it seriously when there's corruption.
So you're just happy defaming the FBI, the Justice Department, anybody that's questioning President Trump. To me, this is the story again. So here we are. Oh, This means that there's nothing that the president has done wrong. President
No, it
Trump
isn't.
is a victim.
No.
This is madness.
No, but
I mean, you have to ignore
one
the
said that.
facts on the ground.
We're
You
just
have to
reporting the
ignore
story
the
about
fact-
this guy.
No, hang on. You have to ignore the fact that Bruce Orr is an expert on Russia. You have to ignore the fact that therefore people like Christopher Steele would be going to Bruce Orr and saying, "Hey, guess what? Sally Yates just got tossed.
You
I
mean
want to
the
make
But
sure
isn't this-
narcotics
I still
expert?
have."
He does
No,
narcotics cases.
But isn't this the point?
Bruce Orr had
He's
Bruce
gotta be
Orr had
honest.
But you guys, look,
expertise on Russia.
Juan, you should be upset too because all this corruption and all this back and forth
What
and
corruption?
and Bruce Orr saying we're going to
don't
get
see-
caught does obscure any legitimate investigation that people maybe would have wanted to
Well,
have had.
all I
because
know
this
is-
becomes the story
let me
that they
just say,
gathered together
I think
to
we have-
collude against the president.
We have the president going after Jeff Sessions, his own Republican attorney general. We
Who
have him
recused
going
himself.
after. Yes, on a
He's not
legitimate
doing
ground.
anything.
Right. So he's going after Rod Rosenstein. He's going after the FBI. Who else? Who isn't he
But
going
Juan,
after?
all I can
Because
say
guess
is, look at
what?
this. Just
Trump
look at
is
this.
innocent.
One, just look at this. Nobody said Donald Trump is playing the perfect game so far. All we're saying is, look at the text messages and the exchanges. Look at the facts.
In and
You
of
should be
itself.
as outraged as anybody.
All right.
And then pick your time when Trump is out of control and say this is out of control.
I would
But
have
this
a hard
is not
time
Trump.
finding such a moment.
Juan,
Feels like this war is in hot water. Republicans warning voters about what will happen if Nancy Pelosi becomes Speaker again. That's next.
I love America.